I've been part of this rivalry ever since I was born, because I was born into it.
This is one of the top rivalries in the nation. I think at one point it made it up to 2 or 3 on the national list. You know, for me, I've been a part of this rivalry game as either a player or a coach. I think it's 28 times.
And that's when I started realizing, hey, this thing's getting to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And I would think out of all my 18 years, I don't think there was a down game where you couldn't walk down that ramp and get chills.
It's definitely something special, like being a part of that tradition now and getting to pass that on to my little cousins and little brother and stuff.
A lot of us have all been around the rivalry since we were little, so we all looked up to play as Mayfield Trojans and hoped for one day we'd play against the Cruces Bulldogs, and all of our dreams have come true.
You know, seeing the highs and the lows, and there's really nothing like it. You know, I think the kids that participate in it and anybody that participates tells you that when you come down that ramp, man, and you know, you hear the roar and see all red and blue on one side, and you hear the boos and all the green and yellow on the other side, there's really nothing like it in high school sports. And these guys get an opportunity to experience something, you know, really, really big on a high school setting.
To me, it's the biggest rivalry in the world. Obviously, you know, it's another game. As far as just being a football coach, you got to play it. It's just another game. But the kids, because of the history of the rivalry, they're going to get up. We're going to get them up, but you don't ever want them up too high.
So the city of Las Cruces likes winning football teams, and they love football, you know, and if you do have that, they're going to come out and support you. And I think for what we've done, what we did in those almost 2 decades was something special for the city, and I think they appreciated that.
I mean, football's about, once the game starts, blocking, tackling, execution, making plays, you know, and so their focus has got to be just like any other week, maybe just pick it up another notch.
You know, I think the challenge is focus, you know, because there's so much that surrounds this game. So many of these guys, our players, their players, they grew up wishing and wanting and waiting to play in this game, and so you finally get that moment, you finally get that opportunity to come down that ramp and to hear the roar on both sides and the screams and the boos and everything else, and the challenge is staying focused on the task at hand. And so if you start that process any earlier than what it needs to be started, then it makes it that much more difficult to focus when you need to.
It's a game like no other, and it's a great feeling, obviously, to win that game, and obviously you don't want to be seen for a couple weeks and if you lose the game.
So, I mean, it's different every year. You know, we went for a stretch there of a long time where that game was the district championship, and that game determined pretty much seedings in the playoffs and everything like that. And so we've had a couple years now where it hasn't quite been that, but it looks like it's getting back to that. You know, I know you know, Mayfield's having a great year again this year, and so you know, traditionally that's what it's meant. It's been that, hey, whoever wins this game is going to be one of the top couple seeds in the playoffs, and they're going to have the upper hand and to go win a state championship. And I know for both programs, that's our measuring stick. You know, our measuring stick isn't necessarily beating each other. It's great. It's great for the community. It's great, but our measuring stick has been state championships for both programs. And so anything that you get to do that gives you a leg up in that process is obviously big.
We have assembly. We have a bonfire that week. Now we're going to have a parade. So, I mean, you're talking about as many distractions as it can happen. They do happen that week.
Well, for the city of Las Cruces, this rivalry's been around for quite a time, and people that have played in it have gone on, and their kids are now playing in it, and it just draws everything together. So everybody gets hyped up for the Cruces-Mayfield game. I know that when Mayfield first came along, they were called, you know, Southern Hatch or whatever it was. It wasn't taken nicely that Mayfield came along, and then that's when the rivalry started in that time period.
Johnson's going to hand it off to Vance up the middle. Vance, 20, 15, and 5. Touchdown, Trojans.
The essence of this rivalry is kind of just a love-hate. I mean, as far as me being a business owner, I will cheer for Cruces High every time they play somebody else from out of town. But my boy goes to Mayfield, I went to Mayfield, and when it's time to get together for that one, I will cheer for Mayfield.
There's a snap to Ellis. It's going to be a handoff to Noel. Reverse. Reynolds has it, looks for Ellis. Touchdown, Dogs!
My first few years as an assistant, it wasn't that big of a deal. You know, it was, sure, there was a good crowd and everything, and I didn't really know about how it started in the 70s and so forth, you know, and how it was pretty big at the old stadium. And as I got to become a head coach, and of course, you know, it started to become bigger and bigger. When Kirk was here for those 2 years, wasn't that bad, as big as 96. 97 was sort of bigger because of the fact, you know, we were undefeated. They had a good team, and of course they had those run of those state championships. And at that time it was like, hey, we got to keep up with the Joneses type thing. When I got the job, and of course with me and Coach Bradley, him coaching me, it was a big story each and every year. And that's when I started realizing, hey, this thing's getting to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And
well, you had Jim Bradley, and you had Coach Miller go at it. And you kind of saw where they were both competing for the state championship all the time. So the rivalry was really at its peak. Now you have Michael Bradley and Mark Lopez, and it hasn't changed as much, but the talent pool hasn't been as good in Las Cruces to really be that top notch of 1 and 2 in the state. So it's changed a little bit, but the essence is still there.
My father was one of the greatest coaches there was, and you know, I think about him every single day, and you know, he changed the face of Las Cruces to being a football town in the state of New Mexico, as respecting Las Cruces and Las Cruces football, and he's done a lot for the game and a lot for the people that he's coached, and when they grow up, they're just good people, good, and still support us. And you know, my dad was a special man and a special coach, and I strive every day to just be a quarter of what he was.
Everything I've seen from Coach Bradley with the passing of his dad, he's really prevailed. I think there's always going to be that void of talking football on Sunday, talking football after the game. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. If you lose somebody like that in your life, there's going to be that void. But I think Michael Bradley has done a great job at what he's doing.
You know, we used to, of course, going back traditionally, we used to play all of our home games at Aggie Memorial Stadium. And so getting to that culminating game, at home game kind of for both teams, was always just a special feeling. And so now that we play our home games at the Field of Dreams and get to go over there for one game out of the year, it's a special atmosphere. I know the kids and the fans and everybody looks forward to it. And so it's just, it's one of those things where the community kind of comes together divided, so to speak. You know, we come together, but by the same token, you know, you're either in red and blue or you're in green and yellow, and you know, families sit on opposite sides, and wives and husbands are yelling at across from each other in the stadium, and so it's just one of those just great atmospheres.
The starting of the rivalry, the reason why, and it's kind of how it starts, is when they built this school. I mean, this was the second school being built in Las Cruces, and so. You know, when you have that, a lot of the younger kids came over here that were on this side, a lot of the farmers and things like that, and that's what really started that rivalry right off the bat. And I think Mayfield ended up winning a few of those games to start and shutting them out, and really pounded them, and then, you know, it started going back and forth and back and forth. And that's where it all started right now, and that's how rivalry starts. Is a lot of times is when those schools are separated. The town was together, now it's separated. You know, you got the green chili and the red chili, and you got all those ingredients for a great game.